it got very quiet. I think we're ready to start. My name is Laura Douglas, and I want to welcome you to the New Bedford campus of Bristol Community College for this very special announcement. And I'm going to invite the Honorable John Mitchell, Mayor of New Bedford, to come up and to kick us off today. Mayor?
All right, welcome everybody. Every time we're in this room, Laura, we have something happy to say. This is great, you know. So I just wanted to welcome everybody to New Bedford, and it's an auspicious day, and for reasons that you will learn about now. Although just sort of looking around the room, I think everybody has already been read into the press conference, so it's not going to be like startling news to anybody, but we'll still go through with the show, right? You know, what we're kicking off today is something I will leave to both to Neil and to Laura to get into the details on, but I wanted to come up and offer both thanks as well as a little bit of context. You know, so we had been hard at work over many years, so many in this room, to position New Bedford to be a leader in the offshore wind industry. And because we recognized at an early point that New Bedford had, you know, considerable competitive advantages in this industry, and some ones that we're all familiar with, right? The geographic proximity to some of the richest wind areas in the world, a full service, fully faceted working port, and probably the best seafaring workforce in America, among other advantages. And the thing that's key for us is that these are advantages that we have to drive really, really hard in order to create opportunity for our residents and to do our part to combat climate change. It's all very real here. We see the erosion of our beaches. We see the changing composition of our fish landings as the water's warm, and we see and we are alarmed by the prospect of ocean acidification as a place that, you know, where 80% of the landings are of a certain very lucrative shellfish. We're concerned about what climate change might mean for our staple industry. So, but in a broader sense, you know, when it comes to economic development, we live in an era in which capital and talent are seemingly inexorably flowing to the superstar cities. You know, Boston is one example of that, but there are many. Austin is another great example. Denver, Seattle, you name it. It's basically the cities that have professional sports teams. So it's sort of, there's a dividing line there. But a lot of America lives in places that don't have you know, international airports or major research universities and other prime assets that in the knowledge economy. And so, you know, it's left up to us to really make the very most of the hand we're dealt. And thankfully, through the work of so many of you here and the folks that you're going to hear from today, we've been managing our hand very, very well. Thank you very much. And again, it's about, you know, what we're doing. The work here is about sustaining our city, about making it more successful, and about creating opportunity for everybody, and so that they can live a good life right here. And so, you know, it's in that context that, you know, it's a source of pride for me that we can announce a partnership between two fabulous institutions, JDR Cable, which is first in class in the business, and Bristol Community College, which is in a rapid ascent as a post-secondary educational institution, but one that is, you know, hyper-energized now by virtue of the visionary leadership of Laura Douglas. Laura has really established herself very quickly in Greater New Bedford and throughout Bristol County as somebody who takes the bull by the horns and somebody who, you know, is farsighted and is willing to dive in, is willing to take risks, and who's just been a fabulous partner to the city. I do want to thank, and at the risk of not naming everybody in the room, because, you know, I want to give shout outs, of course, but I look around the room and every single person here that I know, because I've worked with everyone, who deserves tremendous credit for getting us to this day and then the promise of tomorrow. But I wanted to recognize all the elected officials here. Sean O'Connell from Taunton, the state rep, has been very supportive of our efforts. Our entire federal and state delegation who are represented here today, as well. Ed Washburn, our port director, and Derek Santos, our economic development director. So many other of you, and I know we've all sort of drinking from the same fountain here, and the knowledge that there's still a lot of work to be done. And of course, Steve Pike from the CEC as well, and you'll hear from Steve in a second. And our friends from across the pond, Harriet Cross is here from the British Consulate in Boston. We're really excited. We're really excited about the partnership. We're really excited about the prospect for continued growth and prosperity. And there's a lot of work to be done, but we can get at that work with the confidence that we've already gotten an awful lot of traction. So I just want to thank, on behalf of the city of New Bedford, on behalf of this entire region and Greater New Bedford, I just really want to thank all of you for your proactive approach and initiative and willingness to dive in. Thanks, guys.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Mayor Mitchell. We really appreciate the welcome and the great context that you give to today's announcement. And good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to our campus here in New Bedford. It's just a wonderful gem right here in this wonderful city. We also want to welcome you on behalf of our very special partners today, JDR Cable Systems, the Massachusetts Clean Energy Center, and a special welcome to British Consul General to New England, Harriet Cross. I'd like to take a moment as well to recognize our elected officials, Mayor Mitchell, City of New Bedford, Representative Shauna O'Connell from the Taunton area, who has been a great supporter of Bristol Community College and our location there in Taunton. Also want to recognize Rory Clark, who represents Senator Edward Markey's office, Nick Clemens in the back of the room representing Congressman Joseph Kennedy's office, Glenda Izaguirre, right here, who represents Congressman Bill Keating, and also Jenny Arruda, who is representing Michael Roderick's office today. So thank you so much for coming. And a very special welcome to our trustees who would not make our college possible at all. Chair of our Board of Trustees, Joan Maderos, and also Trustee Anthony Sapienza, and I know you, oh, there you are, right behind Bob. So I want to thank you so much as well for your support, leadership, and guidance in helping us to be one of the most innovative institutions in southeastern Massachusetts. Today, we are announcing a memorandum of understanding that enables Bristol to train technicians and other middle-skill workers with the complete set of technical, health, safety, and environmental skills required for successful careers in the U.S. offshore wind industry. JDR Cables is a global pioneer and world leader in providing products and services to bring power and control to renewable energy systems. It was just about 1 year ago that I was in the UK learning about the high quality of their inter-array power cables. And it's so exciting to be sitting here next to Neil today to celebrate this great opportunity. We are so honored to be signing an MOU with them here in New Bedford, Massachusetts. JDR's vision is to be the trusted partner, and we are thankful that they have put their trust in us as a training partner. JDR and Bristol share a common commitment to the goals of developing a better understanding of the workforce requirements associated with the emerging offshore wind industry sector. We also share a commitment to deepening the understanding of offshore wind and its opportunities for teaching, training, research, and advancing the connections between industry, organized labor, and the Commonwealth's K-16 system. This is an important step forward for Bristol and for the entire region, particularly for the port facilities in New Bedford, Fall River, and Somerset. Together, we are creating America's first offshore wind hub and the first training program in Massachusetts. Working in collaboration with Greater New Bedford Regional Technical High School and other high schools, Bristol will train students to be competent, experienced, and dedicated technicians for JDR and other companies in the offshore wind supply chain. As we demonstrated in the October Offshore Wind Symposium here in New Bedford, this region benefits from the experiences and lessons learned from offshore wind developments in the United Kingdom. Thank you, Consul General Cross, for your willingness to introduce Bristol Community College to global offshore wind industry leaders such as JDR Cables, and your relentless commitment to fostering business-to-business relationships between U.S. and British companies. Through your efforts, we developed a stronger and deeper understanding of the needs and complexities of the offshore wind industry. This MOU is truly a global partnership. This agreement is just one example of the opportunities for collaboration between UK and US organizations to support the emerging offshore wind market here in the United States. Bristol and JDR are committed to being first movers. Bristol's partnership with JDR provides a clear vision for training and strengthening our workforce. Successful graduates will possess technical skills and competence in all aspects of work associated with the termination and testing of array cables used in offshore wind farms. Bristol and JDR will establish a steering team to implement successfully the activities contemplated in this agreement. This steering team will meet on a regular basis to review the performance of training activities and provide guidance and overall monitoring of the success of the program. So thank you very much for allowing me to make the remarks about this agreement. I would now like to pass the microphone on to our friend, Neil Brown.
Okay, thank you very much, Laura. Welcome to you all, distinguished guests, and thank you for your time today in sharing this occasion with Bristol Community College and JDR Cable Systems. As the US, led by Massachusetts, moves into establishing alternative clean energy from offshore wind, JDR stands fully committed to establishing a US workforce that can safely construct, operate, and maintain these new power generation assets. JDR is a market-leading supplier of not only the power cables which connect the offshore wind turbines, but also the high-skill set labour workforce who work offshore to hook up and conduct the commission testing. Although you cannot see the cables, be under no illusion that their continued integrity is critical. One issue with a transmission line can potentially halt the full distribution of power from offshore to land. Providing that vital connection requires competent, well-trained technicians. Conducting the delicate operations associated with fibre optics and power core terminations are challenging in the most benign conditions. Combined with the demanding offshore environment, the requirement to have competent, experienced and dedicated technicians is critical to the success of the entire wind farm installation. JDR brings to this partnership its extensive knowledge and experience in that critical aspect. Under the terms laid out in this MOU, JDR will be supporting Bristol with recommendations of equipment, materials, procedures, course content, and even subject matter experts who can assist in the instruction of these techniques. JDR also has a strong history in encouraging our younger generation to take up engineering careers. To expand that support to the US, we will also be sponsoring STEM educational outreach initiatives at both Bristol locations and regional middle and high schools, similar to what we have been doing within the UK for many years. This is just one aspect of a multi-phased approach that JDR intends to enact to support this emerging market within the US. However, we will need your help and assistance to achieve our goals, which in turn will help the US achieve its ambitions for a greener future, supplying generations to come with a clean energy source. With all of your help and willing, I'm sure that we can make that first step into offshore wind a success. Finally, I would like to thank Laura and others such as Jennifer Menard and Paul Vigent for the opportunity to work with Bristol and organising this event. We know that they share our intent to develop a US workforce and look forward to working with them in the future. Thank you.
All right, I think it's my turn. Hello everybody, I'm Harriet Cross. It's a real pleasure to be here today. I think this is the 4th or 5th time I've been to New Bedford, so I've actually visited this town a lot more than most other towns in New England. And I kind of feel it's starting to feel a bit like home now, so that's really nice. Thank you, President Douglas, for inviting me to speak. It's really exciting to be here at the beginning of a relationship that's clearly going to lead to some really exciting opportunities and to deeper partnerships in the future. So it's great to be here at the beginning when we'll all look back on this in this room and say we were there right at the start, because it's going to lead to great things. And congratulations to the people of New Bedford and the surrounding region. Some of the words that you used, Mayor, you talked about Bristol College being in the ascendancy, you talked about confidence, you talked about risk-taking, and I see all that in this region, and it's really exciting. President Douglas has been very kind to say how much the UK had done to initiate this. But we do this in lots of places, and it's rare actually that it comes to fruition so quickly and so deeply, and that is testimony to the people who've worked on this, who really want to make it happen and who really seize on the opportunities in front of them. In terms of the UK's work on offshore wind, we've been doing this for about 20 years now, and we now have the largest offshore wind capacity in the world, so we really are the experts. And you can see that with companies like JDR Cables. In terms of the electricity that we now produce through offshore wind, it started off as about 0.8% of the UK annual electricity supply. It's now going to be over 10% by 2020. So again, talking about greening the way that the UK powers its industry, it's really making a difference. The other thing that really heartens me is the way that offshore wind changes communities. I'm from Hull in East Yorkshire, very close to towns like Grimsby, and New Bedford. You know these places well, even if you've never been there, because they were former fishing ports who have struggled in many ways to transition from that kind of heavy manufacturing. As I say, I can see that New Bedford is really moving in leaps and bounds to be a really modern, innovative place, and that's really exciting. The other thing I want to mention, and it's particularly appropriate, I think, that there's leadership from people like President Douglas. One of the things that the UK is keen to do is to have more women in the offshore wind workforce. We've just produced an offshore wind sector deal just in the last few days from the government. And one of the things we've said is that we want women to be 33% of the workforce by 2030. So again, I really look forward to New Bedford sort of joining the UK in that sort of leadership about the diversity of your workforce as well. And again, I see it here, I see it happening. So I'll stop there. Congratulations again, and I really look forward to being part of this really vibrant future of New Bedford. Thank you.
Terrific. Thank you, Harriet. I also want to thank President Douglas for inviting Mass CEC here today. I want to echo in turn her thanks and the mayors of all of the folks, both in the local legislative delegation as well as the federal delegation, those who work on a more local level here in New Bedford as well. All folks that are mission critical in ensuring that the vision that we all have for making New Bedford and the South Coast really the epicenter of offshore wind in US a reality. Mass CEC, hopefully, as most of you know, have been in the offshore wind game for the better part of a decade. We've been involved in wildlife studies, we've been involved in transmission studies, really laying the groundwork for the industry to develop in Massachusetts and within the South Coast region. The most obvious example of that is right here in New Bedford with the New Bedford Marine Commerce Terminal. Really the foundational piece of port infrastructure, that we envision helping to launch the industry. But our focus has started to evolve over time as the industry in the U.S. has evolved, and in particular here in Massachusetts, where we started to focus much more on supply chain, which is to say attracting the supply chain companies to Massachusetts, and supplying that supply chain with the workers that it's going to need in order to satisfy the needs of the industry. So in working, in concert with, again, with organizations and institutions like Bristol Community College, working with local leaders like Mayor Mitchell's office, we put together a solicitation for funding for workforce development activities. Not quite in a position to announce on anything on that yet, but I would expect so in the first few weeks. What I can tell you is that we'll be very supportive of efforts like this one today. The workers are really, the core of our efforts at Mass CEC. We're focused on the clean energy industry, as the name might indicate. But it's about economic development. Certainly, we're interested in reducing greenhouse gas emissions. Those are the overall goals of the state, and we view our role as extremely important in achieving those goals. But what it comes down to, for us is increasing those numbers of workers in Massachusetts. Clean energy industry employs roughly 110,000 workers. And from my perspective, offshore wind is the next frontier. That's where we're going to see those numbers increase dramatically, in my opinion, over the next 5 to 10 years. So we're still in the early days. Really pleased to be here. What I'll be really pleased by, Neil and Paul, is that in just hopefully a few short years, the folks that are wearing these suits are New Bedford and South Coast residents. And so while this is just a first step on that long journey, I want to congratulate both you and President Douglas on taking that step, and look forward to working with you to realize the vision that we all have for this industry here in the U.S. Thank you.
So Neil, are you ready to sign? Let's do it. Let's do this. All right, you've got your very special Bristol